Intellectually petty radio on your stereo. Don't compare us to anything, this a different scenario. We break records while we pushing the culture forward. Great music and big vibes right in that order. Intellectually petty radio on the stereo. Don't compare us to anything, this a different scenario. We break records while we pushing the culture forward. Great music and big vibes right in that order.
And you're now tuned into another episode of Intellectually Petty Radio, brought to you in concert with A Beautiful Machine magazine. And you already know, man, the mighty Nerve DJs Radio Network. Every week, every second, every minute, every month. Y'all already know we only rock with legends around here. And today is absolutely no different. We have one of architecture's greatest minds, the one of the dopest people to ever draw a building, one of the most impressive brothers to ever walk the galaxy, Mr. Randy Hamilton Jr. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing just fine. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. How's your family?
Everybody's well today, so it's a blessing.
That's what's up, man. Architecture. Not too many brothers. You don't see too many brothers in architecture. Am I missing it? Is it not being promoted? And I'm sorry, brothers and sisters, or are we underrepresented?
I would say we are underrepresented, and I forget the numbers, but it seems like there's been numbers. I do remember, the number of Black architects compared to majority architects is probably less than 3%. Mm-hmm. So I belong to the American Institute of Architects, which is the National Organization of Architects. Also belong to NOMA, which is the National Organization of Minority Architects. Mm-hmm. But for the AIA, there's probably less than 100,000 architects in it nationwide. And last numbers I saw, 2% of those are African Americans. So mm-hmm. it's a very small number. Although there are some giants in our profession, but we're underrepresented.
Was there a particular person when you were growing up that just made, or building or structure that just made you say, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life?
I was fortunate in middle school, elementary school. We had excellent teachers, and they saw my passion for art and for science, and the love of building things. My mom kept me occupied with building model car kits and airplane kits and boat kits. So I've always liked to do things with my hands. So my counselor suggested I might combine the art and the passion for building things, and hence that comes to architecture. So I took drafting classes in middle school and excelled at that. So it's been a lifelong career, I'll say, a lifelong passion to stay in the world of designing things and seeing things get built.
All right, you can go back and pick one Black architect throughout history to build the greatest building mankind has ever known. Who do you pick?
Well, I'd have to say probably the Egyptians in their building of the pyramids, in terms of historically great monuments. Mm-hmm. That are, hundreds, thousands of years old and still are standing. But in terms of contemporary, I look to the great Paul Williams, Black architect, did a lot of work in the Los Angeles area, did the traffic control tower at LAX, and worked for a lot of the celebrities. Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz designed their home, and other notables like that. And in those days, the Black architect could not sit on the same side of the table as his client, so he had to sit across the table from his client. So he became a student drawing upside down as he would do presentations of his design work to his clients. Most architects can draw upside down because we draw all the time, but he was not allowed to sit on the same side of the table as his white clients. But Paul Williams was a great There are many books written about his career, his legacy of architecture, largely in the Los Angeles area. So he's a role model for me still. And I have several of his books. When we have interns that come and work with us for summers, I will give them a copy of Paul Williams' book so they can see that, you know, we're out there and we are famous. Some of us, right?
Absolutely. So where are you based out of?
Headquartered here in Detroit. We're in downtown Detroit, a little area called Paradise Valley, which was Harmony Park. I'm a native Detroiter, born and raised here, educated here, did not go away for college. And I'm proud to say that I reside within the city of Detroit. On a good day, I can be downtown from my home in the University District in 7 minutes. So Detroit's my home, it's my passion. I've devoted my entire career to rebuilding the great city of Detroit. So it's been 31 years of practice for Hamilton Anderson. 31 years, I started in my home, and with my first contract, first computer, and then in short order, we moved downtown, took some space in a loft building. You can see the existing brick walls behind me and exposed steel columns. So Paradise Valley, Harmony Park's been my home for 30 years. Actually purchased the building that we're in, the Randolph building, in 2019. It wound up in the hands of the city. Several other properties were in the city's control, and they put out an RFP for local developers. I stepped over the line from architecture into development and made a bid to purchase this building, and that we've been in for now 31 years, and bought the building in 2019. And we have a 4-story building, 38,000 square feet. We are blessed to have a restaurant, Fixin's, Fixins, Fixin's Soul Kitchen Detroit, and Kevin Johnson, the former NBA superstar.
Wait a minute, hold on. Nobody told me about this, man. Hey, y'all got food?
We got Fixin's Soul Kitchen restaurant on the ground floor of the building that I own. So I'm the landlord, and Kevin Johnson's team is a tenant, and they are going gangbusters. So we're thrilled to have Fixin's Soul Kitchen Detroit as one of the tenants in the Randolph Center building, along with my firm, Hamilton Anderson. We're actually the longest standing tenant, now owner, in the Harmony Park area. So Detroit's my home, and I'm passionate about it. I use the corny expression, our job is to design and rebuild the city, you know, one house, one block, one neighborhood at a time. So we've been pretty successful at doing that.
So I come to you, I've got a budget, and you know, I want to turn. Matter of fact, I want to say it was Robin Williams at the time. He had turned an old warehouse in New York, like downtown New York somewhere, into like this just ridiculously phenomenal loft. I'm gonna do that, but I guess my question is, the first drawing, is that just what you know, the vibe you get from me mixed in with the specifics, or is it you saying this is how I see this structure?
It's yes, there's definitely vibe. And obviously I kind of liken what we do to if you go to a tailor to have a suit made, then you know, you would tell the tailor what your preference is in terms of style, large lapels, small lapels, cuffs, pleats, so forth. And then that tailor would craft your suit. Well, our process is similar to that. You come to us with a vision in terms of what you want. You will we'll talk to you about what do you want to see in your, I'm going to say, your building or your project. We'll help you to develop that list of the spaces and the sizes of the spaces and the quality of the space. And then we call that a program. Much like a program in performance, you list out what's happening. This is a program of spaces in terms of sizes and uses that you want to see in your building. That gives us how many square feet. Oftentimes you can equate that square footage to a budget. Most of the time, our clients want to build more than their budget can afford. So we have to balance that budget with the program. And then we explore the site. You know, every piece of ground on God's green earth is unique. So every project, we have to look at the setting where you're going to place this this new construction? How does it relate to the surrounding context? How does it blend in? What are the views? What's the circulation? Where do cars come from? Where people come from? What's the angle of the sun? What are the solar conditions? What's the prevailing winds? All that gets taken into account as we come up with concepts. And then, usually there's more than one way to skin a cat. So we will come up with 1 or 2, 3 alternatives and how we can solve your design problem. We'll critique those alternatives and check with budget, see how they rank and help to rank, and then we'll pick the best one and move forward with it. Then we'll produce what people often call the blueprints and specifications that the contractors will use to bid the job and then to actually build it. So yes, your vibe, who you are, what do you like, what kind of character do you want your spaces to impart to the people that visit your property, all that gets taken into account.
What I didn't realize is that I guess you're also responsible for the whether it can actually be built part.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have to be technically proficient. And although we will employ a structural engineer and sometimes special consultants, acoustic consultants, to help us with sound and amplification, those kinds of things. But yes, we have to make sure that what we're designing is technically correct. Mm-hmm. We are charged with protecting life and safety and health, as well as property. So, all of us that are architects are licensed to practice, licensed by the state of Michigan, and licensed in multiple states. So, you go through the coursework, the education, six years of professional education, and 3 years, I believe it's still about 3 years of internship and working for other architects before you can take the exams to receive your license.
Favorite building downtown for you?
Oh, favorite building downtown, Penobscot building. And when I was a boy, my parents would bring us downtown, and I remember we would leave downtown, getting on the freeway, and the kids are in the back. I'm looking out the back window, and I can see the Penobscot building and the red ball on top flashing off and on. I can see that like it was yesterday. So that's one of my favorite buildings in downtown.
The Renaissance Center had that effect on me.
Yeah, and the Renaissance Center is in the news of late because it's largely empty, and what should be done with it. I think I've been on a couple of television shows early in the morning. They asked for opinions, and I've said I'd like to see it saved. And maybe there is some selective demolition. Maybe 1 or 2 of the shorter towers can come down. Mm-hmm. Perhaps the office towers get converted to residential, and then the hotel should remain and be updated and improved, and then the surrounding grounds can be enhanced further. I as much as a lot of architects did not like it when it was built because it was built like a fortress, mm-hmm. It was very unfriendly for people visiting the property. It's gotten better, and General Motors invested quite a deal of time to make it more people friendly. But I think it should stay in large part. It's part of our skyline. It's on postcards everywhere. So I'd hate to see that much concrete and steel and glass go into a landfill, right?
Okay.
So like the building we're in was built in 1885 as an industrial building. Now we're using it for our offices. It was at one time loft office. Now we're using it largely for office, but this building was built in 1885. So we've reused it, adaptively reused it. So I think the Renaissance Center can be reused and recycled and maintained.
Okay, so they tear it down and give you a blank check to build something else. What do you build?
Oh, if you tore it down and built something else, I think it would be obviously wonderful streetscapes. The Riverwalk should be preserved so people can walk, take advantage of one of our greatest assets, which is the Detroit River. But I could see residential, additional hotels, condominiums, things where people can actually take advantage of the views. I mean, it's an international border. You can see across to Windsor or to Canada. And I think it could be residential.
I do too. Only I think I would build out over the lake also.
It gets the technical challenges. Um, the river has the harbor line,
Okay.
and thou shalt not build into the harbor line except with permission. So you might be able to extend a wharf into the harbor line, but for most part, they want to keep the channel clear for obvious reasons, for shipping and so forth. Um, so I would be very careful with pushing something out into the river, the riverway.
At some point, they're going to change that. I don't know. The boats will get smaller and faster, or something. It'd be computer boats or something like that. I don't know.
Well, we have a lot of ocean-going vessels that carry cargo, and those boats, those ships, they don't turn on a dime, and they don't stop on a dime.
No, they do not.
So it's one thing for the pleasure craft; it's something else for a freight hauler. So we've got more than enough property, land side,
Yeah.
still vacant, that we have opportunities to build.
Favorite house?
Oh, I like the architectural style by Richard Meyer,
Hmm.
and I studied the house in Old Westbury. Richard Meyer, his style of architecture, if he's building a house and it's on a vacant green field, he would build the house as though it's an object. So all of his homes, a lot of his homes were done with white metal panels. And if there was brick involved, the brick was painted white. So it becomes an object in the countryside. Um, Very nice geometric forms, almost sculptural in nature, but the white object on the green landscape. So Richard Meyer was one of my favorites. I studied him in college, actually built a scale model of one of the homes. I think it was the house in Old Westbury. He has a house that he designed in northern Michigan. I forget the actual name of the town that it's in, Harbor Springs, but it sits on the bluff of the lake. Hard to see from the road. There's a bridge that connects from the roadway to the front door, and then it transcends down 3 stories, all glass facade facing the lake. Just a beautiful design. So those are some of my favorites. Also, Frank Lloyd Wright, his home in Pennsylvania, Falling Water. That's a classic. I actually got a chance to tour it, view it. It's built on a waterfall. The house sits on top of the waterfall. The balconies are cantilevered out. It's a cool story. Frank Lloyd Wright had a client that wanted him to design a house, and several months went by. The client calls Frank, "I want to come visit." Frank hasn't done any work. He's seen the site. So basically, in short order, overnight, he comes up with this design. The clients thought they were expecting to see a house positioned so it could look at the waterfall. Well, Frank took it to the extreme and put the house on top of the waterfall. So it's if you haven't seen it, Google it. Falling Water. It's one of Frank Wright's more famous pieces of architecture. In fact, I've got a picture of Frank on my wall that was given to me from the Detroit chapter of the American Institute of Architects, or maybe it was the Michigan chapter, but it's hanging on my wall here.
All right. You got to pick one neighborhood: Indian Village or Sherwood Forest.
Sherwood Forest.
Oh, really? Why?
Sherwood Forest has some curvilinear streets. Indian Village, rectilinear streets. Both are charming, both are beautiful. But the Palmer Woods Sherwood Forest area has some curvilinear streets, which is really nice. And to see the mature trees, the canopy over the streets, winding roads is really kind of nice. So
I had no idea what those words mean, but I know what they mean when you said it. Like, I got lost in Sherwood Forest, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and I born and raised in Detroit, been through Sherwood Forest a gazillion times, and still can get fucking lost because the way the streets are going. In Indian Village, it's more classic. You'll never get lost, but they got some really beautiful homes over there.
well, the other benefit of the curvilinear streets, and we actually did some work in Palmer Woods to we got rid of some of the through intersections. You have to turn right and you have to turn right. You can't go through. And they asked us to help them to make those modifications to the street pattern because they were getting so much traffic cutting through the neighborhood, going from either 7 Mile to Woodward or Woodward to 7 Mile. So we did that to slow down traffic. So the one thing about the curvilinear street patterns is it does tend to serve as traffic calming.
Yeah.
Versus the rectilinear streets, like in our neighborhood, a lot of neighborhoods now have the speed humps. You know, couple of them every mid-block or so. You know, so.
Yeah, we got those in Cleveland. I live in Cleveland now, and we have actually speed bumps in Detroit. Those are little mountains.
Well, you know, if you're driving in a vehicle that has a low chassis,
Oh, you screwed.
those speed humps can be a problem.
Oh my God, you are screwed. So I didn't realize. I thought, like, for me, I thought architecture was you pick a struggle basically. Either you do houses or you do buildings, or you do bridges, or But it sounds to me like you do whatever they ask you to do.
Well, you know, there are practices that will focus on a building type. There are practices here locally in the Detroit area that does education, K through 12, higher ed. And in doing so, you become expert at it because you monitor all the bond programs that are put out there for all the cities across the country, and you can focus on education. We've chosen not to focus on any one building or project type. It makes it more interesting. We've done a lot of work. We've done some industrial, very limited amount, but for us to do mixed use housing, MGM Resorts is one of our longest standing clients. So we're in that hospitality mode realm, doing hotels and casinos. We've done major church facilities, worship facilities. We've done schools. We've done Detroit School of Arts, major $125 million high school with a radio station, public television, or broadcast studios, replacement school for Mumford High School, the high school that Eddie Murphy went to in his movie when he was the police detective, Mumford. We did a replacement school for that. So our portfolio is varied. We'll do institutional. We've done, we're working on the patient tower for Henry Ford Health Systems here in Midtown area. So it keeps it more interesting. We're on the team working for the new addition to the music hall, which is a wonderful project right down the block from us here in Harmony Park. We've done parks. We did the master plan for Belle Isle, our major almost
Really?
1,000-acre park on the Detroit River.
Okay,
So
hold on. I'm sorry. I got to interrupt it though. Did you have anything to do with the giant slide when it had people jumping through their drawers?
No, we didn't do the giant slide. The giant slide's been there since when I
Oh
was
my God,
born.
I cannot.
We did do
I
the
don't remember a world without the giant slide, and I'm 53.
right.
One of the great Belle Isle is actually one of the best places I've ever visited. Period. And I've haven't been around the world, but I definitely have been around this country, and it's one of the most unique parks anywhere. And I can't believe that Detroit just basically gave that up.
Well, we didn't give it up. We gave over management of the park to the state of Michigan. And I think the results are good because the island has been enhanced and improved. It's clean, and there's a program to continue the improvements. So we still have access to the island, and it's a beautiful, almost 1,000 acres, designed by Olmsted. It's a classic park, not on par with Central Park in New York. So it's one of the jewels of our city.
Yeah.
So we're very proud to do that master plan. Maybe as long as 2 decades ago, but looking at the financial aspects, the economic aspects, as well as the physical improvements for the island. So it's definitely a treasure for us.
Is there a certain style of architecture that you prefer, or a certain structure, I'd say?
Yeah, I would say that I am a modernist. I am a contemporary designer. I don't I don't subscribe to trying to design a building to make it look old. I do believe in preserving our older buildings and maintaining them. And then if we're building something in addition to it and it's new, then I want to contrast it so that you're very clear about what was built long ago and what was built now. So it's I'd say I'm a contemporary designer. I take cues from the surrounding context. And like I said, every site is unique. So every building that you'll see coming from us, while there might be some similarities, each piece is unique in its own right.
Favorite bridge?
Pardon me?
Do you have a favorite bridge?
Calatrava is a world-renowned designer of structures of that caliber. So any of his bridges have that artistic flair to them. And obviously, I'm kind of partial to the Ambassador Bridge because that's what we grew up with all the time, right?
Still scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
It does. I've always been the tunnel guy, like
Right,
the bridge just, and not too many people, like every once in a while you'll do one or the other, but generally you pick you pick one, and you just kind of ride with. But it is a beautiful bridge aesthetically.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously, our new crossing is close to opening, I believe. I think they wrapped up putting the last panel, the roadway panel. So looking forward to the first trip across our new bridge between Windsor and Detroit. So that's good to see too.
Oh, I hate that. Now you need a passport.
Well, that's the world we're in, right?
That sucks though, because I remember like when back in the day, back in my day, you could just ride over there, and we did. Like it was just different, man. And Canada was a beautiful, beautiful, very clean place to go.
Yeah.
So here's a question that I ask everybody that has absolutely nothing to do with nothing. But you are sitting on a park bench, and God sits down next to you, and he or she says you can ask them one question. What would it be?
Oh, wow. What would it be? What is life like in the next journey? What is heaven like? If he's sitting right next to me, him, her, my God is sitting next to me. What's it like? And am I on track to be there?
Well, you already asked you one question. I don't know.
Yeah, that's again.
Lightly,
Yeah. Am I going to see heaven one day?
Do you think so far?
I would hope so. My parents are deceased. I've got my mom's picture, my father's picture on my desk, and my younger brother who passed away as a police officer serving in Detroit. But I think in what I've done in 31 years of practice and the work that we've done in Detroit to help rebuild our city, I think that my parents would be proud. So I would hope that would qualify me to at least stand at the gate and knock to get into heaven.
At least get in line. My name is on the list, but it's we have to see.
Right.
I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions. Yeah, I don't know, man, and I've struggled with that, especially for like the last decade. And in the last 5 years, I've gotten older. You start thinking about legacy, and the things what people don't talk about is how the things that you feel you did wrong, how they kind of haunt you sometimes as you get older.
Well, everybody has made mistakes and nobody's perfect. And in some cases where there might be a situation that you're not so proud of, I have tried to reach out and to extend the olive branch, make the apology. You try to square things up where you can.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not good at accepting apologies. I'm just not.
You're not good at accepting apologies?
I am not.
Wow.
Especially depending on the level of egregiousness.
Oh, sure.
I might say, okay, yeah, but that doesn't. Nothing about our interaction is going to change.
I kind of subscribe to if you're holding something against somebody, that damages your spirit.
Yeah.
So, you know, I may say I didn't like what you did. I still don't like you as a person, but I'm gonna try to forgive you because I don't want it wearing on me. You know, that
Eh,
that that stuff can be destructive.
it can be. That's probably why I've had a heart attack already. But
Oh,
I can't help but be petty, and I am a very petty individual in certain cases. Do you have kids, grandkids?
me?
Hmm.
I do not have any children.
Okay. Um, Married?
I'm married. Yep,
How long?
I am married. This is the third one, and the third one's the charm.
Oh man. Yeah, I've been married 3 times too. Yeah.
Third one's the charm, and you bring all of those lessons, and you know what to do and you know what not to do, right?
Apparently I don't.
Well, you've got my number. Call me anytime.
So, so you first day for an intern, it comes into your company.
Sure.
First thing you tell them, and the most important thing that you tell them while they're there the whole time.
Well, my advice to our interns is, like any profession, you're going to go into this profession. You have to really be passionate about it, and because you're going to work hard at it. It's not easy. The design part is easy. The business part is hard. So you really have to be committed, dedicated to it. And if you do a good job, I tell our students, interns, I've never been unemployed. It's a blessing. If I stopped working at Hamilton Anderson, I could go down the street and get a job at any architectural firm, I would think, in any market, because I'm trying to do a good job every day. You try to serve your clients to the best of your ability. You try to look out for how you help them spend their money, and you try to give them the best advice. So for interns, get your education, get the experience under your belt, learn all aspects of the profession. From used to be you'd be on the drawing board, now you're on computer, but learn all the software and learn the business side. It's one thing that you just want to be a computer person and just do the BIM or the Revit, AutoCAD stuff on the computer, but you really should be well-rounded and learn all parts of the profession: how to be a project manager, how to write proposals, how to do business development. I mean, we're really focusing this year on business development. As we've been in Detroit has surged again as a destination city. People come back. Competition is fierce. When we first got started, 30 years ago here in downtown, you'd leave work at 5 o'clock. It's a ghost town. Now it can be gridlock on certain days of the week. So lots of competition. So you got to be on your P's and Q's, and you got to work it every day. So we expect our interns to be self-motivated. Don't come in here and expect somebody's going to always offer you something to do. You've got to make some noise and say, "Hey, I completed my last task. I think it's done. I'm ready for the next piece of work. What do you have for me to do?" You got to be self-starting.
Okay.
You got to want to gobble it up.
Okay, so what's the shit that just gets up under your skin about architecture? What's the one thing where you're like, okay, this is the part I don't want to be dealing with?
When you do the work, you design the project is complete, project is open and operational, the project is successful, and then the client doesn't want to pay the last bill.
So wait a minute. So why I'm lost. How aren't you getting your money at some point before it even opens up?
Because usually the project will open, and there might be that last payment might be for the construction period that is 30 days behind us, coming up to the day of opening. So you've got your last bill is sent in, and for the work that you did on the site, you know, inspecting the work, monitoring the work, approving the work, and you send that last bill in for that last bit of work, and client may not want to pay. So that gets under the nerves.
Oh my God.
The other thing too, sometimes we don't always get credit for what we've done. Project grand opening, or there's a groundbreaking or a ribbon cutting, and the client will hold the celebration, and your name as an architect may not be on program. But that's minor, because I tell folks, let us do a good job. Let you acknowledge that we've done a good job. If it's all good, pay us, and I'm cool. Right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, say something. You thinking that the custodians and stuff.
Yeah. So
thank me too, bro.
Yeah. So it's like anything. It's a business. So all the challenges of business are here. It's no different than any other business. You know, winning the work, getting the work, doing the work, getting paid for the work, getting the next project, and keeping it all rolling. So I'm blessed. I thank God for 31 years of practice. I give Him all the praise, all the glory, and it's been a good ride. I'm going to write the book. I'm going to write the book.
You should. You ever just ride around and look at shit that you designed?
Rarely. We have over 30 years. You've had staff members. We've had hundreds of staff members. So sometimes we feel that this group of staff members haven't seen the work that we've done. So we've rented a shuttle bus, and we'll take an afternoon, get on the shuttle bus, and draw the map. When we've got projects scattered all over the Detroit landscape, so we'll spend an afternoon and just go from project to project and show our team what we've done. So those are the moments when we had a client that said, "Rainey, you should." We just opened the Detroit School of Arts, and we were at the Rooster Tail for one of the contractors' holiday party. And this gentleman pulled me aside, "Rainey, you guys should just take a moment and smell the roses, because what you've done in designing this $125 million high school is just short of a miracle." He wasn't saying it in a derogatory sense. He was saying it in, it's really special that you all have done this, and you've done it well. So you need to stop and smell the roses. So sometimes I will pause, and sometimes others will remind me of some of the work that we've done. So it does my heart good to see that we have contributed to the landscape and the fabric of our city.
So are you on site throughout the whole build?
We'll have someone on site, and depending on the intensity of construction, if there's very little going on, we may not be on site at all. If construction is rocking and rolling, we typically will visit the site once a week.
Okay.
And that can vary. And sometimes, depending on the size of the project, we might have 2 people visit the site because there's a lot of ground to cover. The projects we've done with MGM, millions of square feet, lots of spaces to cover in terms of seeing the execution of the work. So it will, so we like to be with the project until it's time to open the doors.
So $125 million school. When you got that contract, did you just have like carte blanche? You can design it the way you like to design it, or were there certain parameters you had to follow?
We actually were given design authority.
Okay.
We had to provide so many square feet, classrooms, dance. We have 3 performance venues, recital hall, black box theater, and the main auditorium space. So we had things that we had to include, but how we put the puzzle pieces together was completely up to us. And that's where my role is very important, because I help guide how we put the puzzle pieces together. Because it's a big building and with large spaces. So a lot of those spaces, all those big spaces wanted to be on the ground floor, but because the site was limited in size, some of those spaces had to go to the upper floors. So how we organized the building was very important. And we're building this right next to the Detroit Symphony Orchestra Hall. So we actually we did a couple things. We put the signature piece, the auditorium, at the intersection of Cass and Selden. Selden Street's lesser known than Cass, so we thought it was important to anchor that corner with the big auditorium. And then it was situated kitty corner from an existing church. So those two assembly kinds of spaces, I thought was a great way to anchor the corner. And then we took some of the other big spaces, the television studios, and put that at the opposite end. And we did some things. I went to Cass Tech here, the old Cass Tech, where our dining room was up on the top floor. So we moved the dining hall and the library media center to the top floor to take advantage of the views of downtown. So looking back on some of my experience and bringing it forward, and then classrooms were in between, and it turned out to be a very wonderful project.
So when's the last time you went and walked around the school?
I gave a tour. It was last year. We had some other design professionals in town. They wanted to see a couple of our projects. So I called up the principal, and she said, sure, come on over. And we walked them through the building, and I'm telling you, it looked like the day it was completed. They have maintained the school so well. It was just good to see. And then the designers that we had in town, sometimes people underestimate your capacity and what you're capable of doing. So they were blown away. They had no idea of the complexity and the sophistication of the design. And again, it wasn't about using expensive materials because it's concrete block and metal siding. So the materials were very economical, but the way we put it together really was, well, it's received awards for design. So we're very proud of it. Very proud of it.
The inside of the auditorium, what's it about the inside of the auditorium where you said this is it?
Couple things. It has a retractable orchestra pit. It has a backstage proscenium space that's on par with any of the other professional theaters, music hall, state theater. It's comparable to these adult performance venues.
Okay.
And then the seating was done in a way that it has two balconies. So if you have a crowd of so many people, you can sit them all on the main floor, it'll look full. If you get more people, you can sit them on the second balcony and then on the third balcony. So you can it always looks as though the theater is full. And it's acoustically correct. We had an acoustician working with us, acoustical engineer to work with us to make sure that it was designed so that the sound is wonderful. So it's just a beautiful space. Next time you're in Detroit, I'll give you a tour.
See, people say that all the time. And I call them up and the number be disconnected. But, like when people say they don't trust anybody, my first argument is you trust a lot of people you don't know. You trust whoever designed the bridge that you just drove over. Mm-hmm. And it started like I started looking at things like in its totality as not just a structure but as a visual. And man, some of the stuff, like I live in Cleveland, and some days, some mornings, the downtown just looks so beautiful. Like it. How do you fit a building inside somebody else's puzzle?
That's the question. And that's why you hire architects, because we'll help you fit your puzzle piece into that bigger puzzle.
Would you want to build the tallest building on the planet, or the ability to accurately duplicate a pyramid?
Well, I think of I think it's called a Luxor Casino in Las Vegas. That's a pyramid shape.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen that.
So that's already been done. And they're still trying to figure out how they built the original pyramids with each block weighing tons and precisely positioned, accurately position.
That's what I mean. Being able to build one like
Yeah,
that, like them.
so the verdict's still out on how they were able to build that. And you know, there's all the other theories that it was built by aliens and
Oh, come on.
people from a different world and all that. But
They don't build. The aliens never went to Europe. I'm just gonna say that they only in Africa and Asia. They must have loved the culture. I don't know.
right, right, right.
I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's not. It's for me. It's not about building the tallest building. It's about building the right building for that project. You know, and we can debate. Is it good to have tall buildings? I mean, pros and cons, increased density, views from the top, cost of building. So you know, you got to be. You don't want to overbuild, right? So.
Well, anything currently built in the last 100 years, do you think will be here in 1,000 years?
You know, I would think not. I would think not. If the buildings remain occupied and maintained, is the key word, then possibly. I mean, a lot of the structures in Europe are centuries old, right?
Yeah, yeah. But
So
I don't know if they're gonna make it thousands of years though.
yeah, you know, who knows? Good question.
What?
I know we design buildings. We'll say we design this building to have a 50-year life. And that's probably higher quality buildings, you know, buildings that are built by the federal government. They talk about building things in terms of number of year span. So 50-year life, 100-year life, 75-year life. Make sure that it's well crafted, use high quality materials. You don't skimp on the quality so that it will last, because you want to get as much of your investment out of the use of that building over time as you possibly can. So build them well. Makes sense for the federal government, but oftentimes, you know, we may not be able to build a 100-year building today because of the cost.
And I don't understand. Like, if I want to build something, I want to build something that's my name is going to last, like as long as humanly possible. I don't want to build something for 50 years. That's just greed.
Well, you know, I had this thought when we we're just talking. You know, the one place where your name might last a long time is at your grave.
Oh my God! Don't do that to me, man. Damn, Randy.
You know, everybody's going to have a headstone, right?
That is true.
Or if you're fortunate enough to be able to have them build you a crypt or a tomb, you know, you can have your name on that. It'll be there for a long time, as long as that cemetery is there, right?
No, but you know what? Maybe when I get my millions, I'll have a building built on a college campus, and I'll pay them enough so that it's built like I own that spot throughout perpetuity. This will be the Jobs Memorial. Even if they tear it down and build another one, it'll still be the Jobs Memorial.
Well, you know, yeah, I hope that becomes a reality. You can do that. You can work with the university and donate funds to develop the building. And as part of the agreement, that site has to bear your name from now until kingdom come.
Yeah, or maybe I don't get so rich. I'll just do a maintenance closet. Just has to always be my closet.
Well, I will tell you this. I went to the University of Detroit Mercy here in Detroit for architecture, and it's a Jesuit and Sisters of Mercy College University. I'm actually a trustee now, so I'm really honored to serve in that capacity. But over time, we actually gifted the school some dollars. So we have an endowed scholarship in the name of the firm in my name. So every year we we offer a scholarship to a minority student at the University of Trade Mercy School of Architecture. And we also have a design studio with our name on it. So Studio Hamilton Anderson, Rainey Hamilton. So the students that are in that studio taking their coursework, their design work, they can recognize that one of their graduates continues to support the university.
Yo, that's got to be pretty dope right there.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Oh my God, I would take all type of selfies. Like, bro, like you're too humble. They was whoever said that you need to pop your own collar sometime was right.
I did take a selfie in front of the studio. One of my colleagues and I were there for a function. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please do, man. Because come on, oh my God, bro, like there are very few professions that your work routinely extends past your existence.
Right.
You're a doctor, you can save 1,000 lives. They're gonna die. Not too far behind you. You know, you're a nurse, take care of a bunch of people. You're this mechanic, the car's gonna, whatever the case. But architects get to exist years beyond their existence. Have you ever thought about it that way?
Yeah, Jobson, you said that you're in Cleveland.
Yes.
Ohio has the largest African American owned architecture practice. It's called Moody Nolan. And Curtis Moody, sadly, passed recently. So we're still mourning the death of one of our giants. Curtis Moody was one of my mentors, prolific designer, came out of Ohio State. I think his headquarters, is in Columbus. His son, Jonathan Moody, is now at the helm. But Curtis Moody Nolan is the largest Black-owned firm in the country. And they received the AIA award, the AI National Firm Award, either last year or year before. So, Kurt Moody, friend of mine, sad to see him leave this earth. But another trailblazer in terms of Black architects in this country.
What school would you recommend for architecture?
Well, I'm kind of biased. University of Trade Mercy School of Architecture.
Okay. I seen that coming as soon as I said it. Okay, so and not to take nothing away from UAD, but take them out of the equation. Who would you recommend outside of your alma mater?
You mean in terms of School of Architecture? Well, we have Lawrence Technological University, if that's still the correct name. LTU, Lawrence University, has a wonderful architecture program. So I think University of Trade Mercy and Lawrence are the two leading institutions here in southeastern Michigan.
I know I was reading about a brother that went to MIT. Actually, I want to say he was the first brother that went to MIT. He went for architecture. I cannot remember his name, but he ended up teaching at Tuskegee for like 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
How does somebody, like, if they do want to intern with you, or they want to hire you, how do they go about doing that?
They want to intern with us, connect to our human resource manager online, and do it early. This is the season when universities and colleges and students are getting ready for their summer break. So get on the list, bug us, and get an interview. I met with an intern this week that's graduating from UDM in May, and she's here early, so it's good. And we will get her back for another interview and see about bringing her on for this summer season.
Most unique thing somebody's told you in an interview process?
I'm sorry, say again?
Most unique thing someone's told you in an interview process?
Oh, wow. Most unique thing. Wasn't an interview process per se. We did a project for Wayne State, and the director of facilities, we proposed a process to design their building where we were going to, they didn't know what they wanted to build. So we helped them to define what they wanted to build. And we have a process where we can model the program, what they want to build. We model the quality level of what they want to build. And we model the budget. And usually all three of those are not in sync.
Okay.
So we propose this process where we will come out to the university on site and take them through a workshop process over a 5-day period. We're going to explore what if scenarios in terms of what this project can be. So everything's in flux. Is it this size? Is it tall? Is it short? Is it wide? Is it long? How much glass? How much steel? Is it steel? Is it precast concrete? And at the end of the day, we honed it till we came up with a solution.
Okay.
And this guy, at the end of that work, at the end of that process, he said in his kind of military sounding voice, he said, "You guys are effing awesome." He used the real word. And so that was and I actually said, if you don't like the process, you don't have to pay us. So I put our fee at risk. At the end of the day, he said, "You guys are freaking awesome." And then he paid us because we did exactly what we said we're going to do, help him to develop what they wanted to build, get it priced, and have a conceptual design. And we did that in a week's time. So that was a sweet moment. That was like magic.
Yeah, because who's going to pay them folks if he didn't pay? You.
Well, I was pretty confident that he was going to like the process and that we would get to a solution to his design problem that he liked.
Do you work better with some like when you have okay, you've designed a building and now do you have any say in what firm actually built it?
We do. Oftentimes a client will ask us to help them to navigate the bidding process.
Okay.
And we'll help them. Sometimes they'll ask us to contribute to the RFP, the request for proposal. They'll send that RFP out to 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 construction managers. Those construction managers will respond. We might help them to evaluate those proposals, maybe narrow it down from, let's say, 6 down to 3, have those 3 firms come in and interview, and then we'll narrow it down from 3 to 1. So sometimes we can be involved in the selection of the construction manager. Sometimes the client will actually have their construction firm already on board. So we've been in situations where the owner and contractor come to us and say, "Rainey, we want you to be our architect." And we actually had that happen to us on a project here that's very near and dear to our hearts. It's just being completed. It's the College Careers and Beyond, which also has under that title the Midnight Golf Program.
Okay.
And the Midnight Golf Program is an after-school program where the founder, who is Renee Fluker, will work with high school students to get them on track to get into higher education.
Okay.
And they kind of use golf as the training method, but they bring the kids onto the property, and they'll have a couple of cohorts every school season, and they will coach them on everything about what are you going to do with your life, and are you going to go into any of the professions, or you're going to go to college. In fact, I think this week, they call her Miss Fluker, they call her Miss Renee. She is traveling with some of the students right now to go and tour several colleges. So that program is very special. The construction manager is Cunningham Limp, and they came to us and asked us to be the architect. And of course, after knowing Ms. Fluker for many years, I said yes immediately, and we were off and running. So that project is actually reusing an older building for this new use, and it's turned out really well. So we actually got on video the students coming into the building for the first time, and that's what brings joy to my heart when you see the kids come in and they just say, "Oh wow, our new home! This is wonderful."
That's dope. And I didn't realize this. our hour is up. Any advice you want to impart? Any wisdom, or you just want to say random hello to somebody?
No, I'll say hello to all of the team members at Hamilton Anderson. Again, thank you for your continued commitment and support in our mission. And I'll say hello, Rachel, my dear wife. It'll be 2 years for us this coming May. So I love you dearly and glad that we are together. And to your audience, thanks for listening, and just stay the course. For me, it's all about praising God every day and giving him the glory and asking for his grace and mercy.
I definitely appreciate your time, your energy, and your wisdom. This has been an education lesson. Um, this has been dope. I just put it that way. And thank you so much, man. And if nobody else has told you today, I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you, and I'm proud of you. I hope you get to Detroit, or I'm gonna come see you in Cleveland.
Actually, I'm coming this weekend. I promised to watch my grandbaby, so I'll be there Saturday.
Well, safe travels to you.
Appreciate it, man. You have a good one.
You too. Thank you.
No doubt. Peace. Yo, y'all already know, man. Let me fix that. Y'all already know, man. This is Jobs. This has been another episode of Intellectually Petty Radio. And shout out to Rainey Hamilton Jr. Phenomenal individual. And I learned a lot of shit about architecture today that I had no clue about. And shout out to the brothers and sisters. What is he say? Couple thousand architects across this great country of ours. But shout out to y'all for definitely doing the work, and not necessarily always getting the credit. You are appreciated way more than you could possibly know. And on that note, y'all have a good one, and I'm out.